6, the Chicago Bears Cinderella story is over. The Raiders had a great game, but not before Caleb Williams makes the throw of a lifetime.
Well, President Trump threatens new tariffs as the fight over Greenland intensifies. We're going to look at some of the possible repercussions.
Plus, a look back on the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. We'll tell you how Chicago is celebrating the civil rights icon to mark the holiday.
And if you are not off work today and have to go outside, it is very cold out there. We're talking about a dangerous commute as the snow is making those roads very slick all across Chicagoland.
We're so glad you're with us on this Monday morning. I'm Natalie Baumke.
I'm Brian Jackson. Let's get it over to Mike for that updated forecast.
Woo.
It's brutal out there.
It's bad. It's bad. You know, the roads are bad. Gabrielle's going to give us the latest update on that. It's brutally cold, and there is still some snow falling. Not a lot, but we have these kind of northwest to southeast oriented stripes of snow that briefly increase and reduce the visibility. I'm going to zoom in on this area right here from Orland Park to Midlothian towards Harvey. That's a little pocket of some slightly heavier snow that's falling, but almost anywhere in Chicagoland at least has some flurries, but kind of a ground blizzard with these very strong winds out there, which are just, creating very low visibility and some painful wind chills. Feels like 20 below as far south as Kankakee. Not much better at Midway, 19 below there. 23 below zero is the wind chill at Aurora. And we'll see these painful wind chills pretty much all day long. And you may be spending some extra time behind the wheel this morning, despite it being a holiday, right, Gabby?
Exactly, Mike. Yeah, luckily we'd have kind of lower traffic volume, I guess you could say, for this Monday morning. Typically, maybe be a lot more of a mess if it's a normal Monday. But let's take a look at some of our travel cameras. I know it's really small, but it kind of gives you an idea maybe of the reflection on some of the roadways where things might be wet, might be snow covered a little bit, like I-57 at Crawford as well. Here's a look at the Eisenhower at Ridgeland Avenue where traffic volume again seems to be low. But look at this little bit of a backup. There's no crash reported over here on I-80-94 near Burr Street, but it looks like that westbound side is getting extra packed maybe as people are getting into the city and noticing that the roads are a little more treacherous than they thought. There is a crash though reported just downstream from here. It's a westbound on I-94 at I-80 toll plaza. That should actually say over in the Lake Station area. So please be aware of this if you are headed out. It's hard for us to really see all the road conditions, but that's why we have Roseanne Tellez out giving us a look at how some of these intersections are looking. Roseanne, what part of the Chicagoland area are you in?
Well, we're in Countryside, and we're right at LaGrange Road, where it meets Joliet Road, or Route 66. And the thing we've really noticed right now is across the street from us is a car dealer, and you can see when the winds pick up, the snow starts blowing off the roof of the building, off the cars. And, of course, it stopped the minute we go on the air. But it was really bad just a moment ago. That's the thing. They're gusts. So it can come out of nowhere when you're driving down the road. But the one persistent thing is once it blows and hits the road, it's freezing. And so it is creating some dangerous conditions. We've seen a salt spreader go by a couple of times and some snow plows just right where we are. They've plowed probably, it seemed to be doing circles, probably getting the various lanes. So we saw the plow here for a good 20 minutes going back and forth. But the salt isn't that effective when it's this cold outside. So you may see those trucks and think, oh, good, this road's been treated, but you need to be careful still because it's so cold. Oh, we did talk to one man who actually loves this kind of thing. This is Grizz.
I love it.
What do you love about this? It's freezing.
I work outdoors all year round, so it don't bother me one bit. You know what? Mind over matter. I don't mind, so it doesn't matter. I snowplow also, so I took the night off, and but I gotta go out later on and help out.
Yeah, so he was picking up a pack of Monster drinks to get him motivated. But I love that mind over matter. That's great, but after you've been outside for a little while, I don't know, if you can really convince yourself that it doesn't matter. It's pretty cold out here. But good for Grizz. So people are still out there doing what they got to do. But just be careful. Definitely worry about these roads and the potential for black ice. Back to you guys in the studio.
Mavis from 42 online, and it's good. championship game.
And with that, the Los Angeles Rams and the Chicago Bears Cinderella season. It was a surprising twist, though, after an incredible throw by quarterback, Caleb Williams forced the two teams into overtime.
Throwing it to your favorite player, by the way. Now, the Bears take that moment, though, until Caleb Williams got his pass intercepted in overtime, and that is where the game would pretty much end. Rams got into field goal territory and make it to win it 20-17. More than 60,000 fans at Soldier Field. They waited to give the team a standing ovation as they walked off the field. Many of the players say that this was the favorite season that they've ever had.
In these moments, you feel that you let your team down, or you feel that you know this or that, and it's a good lesson learned for us. First time being in a situation for me and for us as a team, and I'm excited for what's to come.
This will be hopefully a feeling in this locker room that we won't forget, and we'll be able to use it as fuel going forward.
The Rams now head to Seattle to face the Seahawks on Sunday for the NFC Conference Championship. In the AFC, Patriots are heading to Denver to face the Broncos.
And let's turn now to growing tensions between the U.S. and Europe after President Donald Trump announced a 10% tariff on countries opposing American control of Greenland. And that includes Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the U.K., the Netherlands, and Finland. Trump says he will raise tariffs again in June unless there's a deal for the U.S. to purchase Greenland. President Trump will travel this week to the World Economic Forum in Switzerland, where he will be running into many of those European leaders.
The Pentagon says 1,500 active duty soldiers are on standby for a possible deployment to Minnesota. President Trump has threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act to stop some of the protests ongoing in Minneapolis. Tensions have been growing since an ICE agent shot and killed a woman earlier this month during the Trump administration's crackdown on immigration. And at the same time, the Justice Department is opening up an investigation into Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey over claims that they're impeding federal agents from doing their job. Walz did not address this investigation directly, but a social media post states weaponizing the justice system against your opponents is an authoritarian tactic. Mayor Frey called the investigation an intimidation tactic.
Two businesses seriously damaged after a fire in McHenry. Happened on Riverside Drive Sunday afternoon, and video shows smoke pouring out of the building. Wow. City leaders say Riverside Bakery and Reese's Bakery were hit hard by the fire. Riverside Bakery has been in business for more than 50 years.
All the locals go here. They're known for their cookies and their chocolate donuts. The family's owned it forever, generations. It's sad.
McHenry Mayor Wayne Jett released a statement calling this a truly sad day for the community. He says he has reached out to both businesses to offer help as they recover.
All right, time is now 6:08 this morning. Taking a look at our forecast, Mike. This is one of those days you got to put on every layer you have.
I'm wearing an orange layer, a blue layer, and then later I'll have more layers on top of it. It's bad. We got wind chills 20 below zero in some spots and worse, and they still have that kind of blowing snow out there, which is creating havoc on a lot of roadways despite it being a holiday. I'll tell you what, January is doing some January stuff now. We have blowing snow and frigid conditions today. Light snow tomorrow night into Wednesday morning, maybe an inch or two, especially north, and then frigid air, every bit as cold as it is right now, coming in here Friday, Saturday, and probably Sunday as well. It's 3 at O'Hare. The snow is stopped out there. We have a west wind at 18, so the wind chill at O'Hare is 17 degrees below zero. We have that cold weather advisory for all of Chicagoland until noon. We got a goose egg at Aurora, 1 below at DeKalb and Rockford, 5 at Chicago's Lakefront. When I came in this morning, you were at least in the double digits in Northwest Indiana. Not anymore. 7 at Merrillville, 6 at Valparaiso, Michigan City. Okay, you're there with a 12, but that's the hot spot. 19 below the present wind chill at Midway. Look at all these 20s or worse. Woodstock, DeKalb, Aurora, Morris, LaSalle, Peru, and Rockford. And those minus 20s are headed east. It's going to be a painful morning and more cold and some more snow on the way. But watch out this morning for the black ice on some roadways due to blowing snow. Back to you both.
Thank you, Mike. Still ahead, it's that time of year. We're talking about Chicago Restaurant Week. And in just a little bit, we're going to help you plan out your personal menu.
Fox 32 News is
The number killed during Iran's crackdown on anti-government protests has now climbed to over 3,900 people. That's around 1,400 more than just a week ago. Tehran's streets, though, have been quiet in recent days as thousands of people are arrested and protests start to taper off. The Trump administration says it is closely watching developments after Iran promised to pause executions. President Trump has now ruled out using military force.
In Spain, at least 39 people are dead after two high-speed trains crashed into each other head-on. It is in the southern part of the country near Malaga and Madrid. Police say one train came off the rails, then jumped onto the opposite track. Both trains were carrying around 500 people.
Starting Wednesday, the State Department is freezing immigrant visa processing for 75 countries. The indefinite pause includes Somalia, Russia, Afghanistan, Iran, and more. The State Department says that the freeze will remain active as long as it takes to ensure new migrants are not using social welfare services.
A month after CBS News was accused of censorship for pulling a 60-minute segment, the story is airing. The segment focuses on the CCOT prison in El Salvador, where the Trump administration has been deporting Venezuelan immigrants. Reporter Sharon Alfonsi claimed editor-in-chief Bari Weiss's decision to pull the story was political. Weiss reportedly said the story was not ready because they did not have any Trump administration officials on camera. But Alfonsi said they refused to be interviewed. The segment includes a new beginning and ending to include the additions that Weiss wanted.
All right, time is now 6:14. Turning back to our forecast, and we got some dangerous conditions outside, Mike.
Yeah, because of how cold it is, the salt isn't very effective on the roadways, so you get this kind of ground blizzard. The roads that may have been plowed an hour ago get quickly covered again, even though there's not that much snow falling. But there is still some snow falling. Take a look at our radar here, and I've got it set up pretty much the most sensitive mode that I can to kind of show you even where these light snow showers are occurring. We keep seeing these northwest to southeast oriented bands of snow, one obviously heavier one going through Berrien County, but I'll zoom in here. Let's look at southern Cook County right here. You got Midlothian, Dixmoor, Harvey, Markham, Hazel Crest, and Oak Forest. This is headed east, probably going just south of Dalton and Burnham, but that is a little pocket of some slightly heavier snow coming down, which can quickly coat some roads and make for even more hazardous conditions than what are already out there. Temperature-wise, we've been falling. Our high happened at midnight. It was 18. Now it's 3 at O'Hare, 6 at Valparaiso, and of course the wind chills are much colder than that. We're looking at a lot of minus 20s or worse, especially west of the city, but even at Midway, feels like minus 19. Well, it's going to be a cold week. Another snow system coming in tomorrow night into Wednesday morning. That one I think is going to favor the northern suburbs, maybe an inch plus there. And then bitterly cold here Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Highs barely in the double digits. All right, it's a light travel day, but it doesn't mean it's not without peril.
Well, Mike, yeah, as we've been saying, we've been following these crashes that have been kind of coming and going into our system, or maybe something pops up and it's unfounded. But we're looking a little bit better, at least with the drive times. If you are coming in the city, you know that you're going to want to take it easy, add an extra maybe 10 minutes to your commute. Right now, it's at 30 minutes on the Kennedy from O'Hare to downtown for your inbound trip, 25 minutes on the Eisenhower as well as on the Stevenson. Still looking at 20 minutes on the Dan Ryan from 95th to the Byrne interchange. Now, I think things have changed because we were showing kind of a line of that yellow, which indicates some stop and go as you approach an area. Because of this crash, southbound Dan Ryan express lanes at 47th Street. And it said it was blocking 2 left lanes there, which would pretty much essentially be blocking those express lanes. And I'm not seeing that yellow pop up anymore. So I'm going to say that this is hopefully over on the shoulder in the express lanes, but still take it easy, especially on the Dan Ryan. That's where most of our reports have been. Let's go over to Northwest Indiana and over near the Crown Point area. Better news here. There was an earlier jackknife semi that was blocking some lanes for like 2 hours. That has finally cleared northbound I-65 past US 231, again in kind of that Crown Point area. And then lastly, a stall. Northbound Tri-State exit to Halstead Street, is blocked because of that stall. This is just a note. Again, please make sure you're wearing those layers. You never know what you're going to run into with your car or someone else's car out on the roads. I'll send it back to you, Natalie and Brian.
Well, President Trump is ramping up pressure on Europe to cut a deal on Greenland.
He is threatening new escalating tariffs on 8 European countries if this does not happen. Douglas Zader joins us with more from Washington.
Greenland may not be known for protests, but many here were out in force over the weekend. Greenland is not for sale, one of the signs said, and they had just learned here of the president's threat of new European tariffs if the U.S. can't strike a deal to buy Greenland.
This day could not get any worse, but it just did.
It coincided with a visit by a U.S. congressional delegation to Denmark, which oversees Greenland, and that included lawmakers who say the president should back down.
The people of Denmark are very anxious, are quite concerned, and the people of Greenland even more so.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, though, defended the move, pointing to Greenland's growing strategic importance in the hemisphere.
We are not going to outsource our national security. We are not going to outsource our hemispheric security to other countries.
The president's not wrong that there's a national security issue with respect to Greenland.
Republican Ohio Congressman Mike Turner heads up the U.S. delegation to NATO's Parliamentary Assembly. He sees the president's point, he says, but he is also concerned about the attempted acquisition becoming a distraction.
I think people would prefer a focus on the economy instead of a focus on Greenland itself.
Our Doug Luzader is joining us live from Washington this morning. So, Doug, is there any talk about these European countries potentially launching their own tariffs in response?
Well, we're pretty early into this threat, but it would seem likely that if, in fact, there were U.S. tariffs in response to a failure to get Greenland, that there would be something in response to that. You know, the market futures are down today in anticipation of a possible trade war. We don't know how far this is going to go, but it would seem as though you could assume this wouldn't just happen in a vacuum if the United States ramped up tariffs the way the president is talking about here.
And then we have to talk about, I know that we don't know what is going to come of this, but the impact on prices here in the U.S., Doug, I mean, that has to be a concern.
Well, you know, there's this debate about what really the impact of tariffs will be. There's no question that tariffs produce upward pressure on prices. To what degree does that happen? It's difficult to say. There's no question that these costs are somewhat shared, but ultimately many of them are passed along to consumers. You know, manufacturers overseas only bite the bullet so much before they begin to pass on these increased costs. But the president clearly sees this as not just an economic question, but a security question to try to secure Greenland.
All right, Doug Luzader live in Washington. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Our time is now 6:20 on the dot this morning. We're going to look back on the life and legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. as we lay out some of the local events celebrating the late civil rights icon.
Watch this.
Well, today the nation remembers the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. MLK Day is held the third Monday each January.
King was one of the most prominent figures during the civil rights movement. His speeches on injustice, racism, and inequality were heard all across the country. He delivered his famous I Have a Dream speech in 1963 as 250,000 people marched on Washington.
And there are events across both the city and suburbs today. Mayor Brandon Johnson will attend the annual Rainbow Push MLK breakfast later this morning. He will also be at City Year Chicago's annual MLK Day of Service at Morgan Park High School. Chicago History Museum is granting free admission to all Illinois residents as part of their annual celebration. And the Art Institute is hosting some family-friendly activities inspired by Dr. King. And a reminder, both federal and local businesses will be closed for the holiday today, along with most banks and post offices. There will be no mail or package delivery, with regular businesses picking back up tomorrow. Most restaurants, grocery stores, and retail businesses will be open.
A new study finds there is no meaningful link between a pregnant mother using acetaminophen and her child developing autism or ADHD. An international research team reviewed 43 studies before coming to that conclusion. One study compared siblings from the same family. One was exposed to acetaminophen in the womb, the other was not. There was no difference in neurodevelopmental outcomes. The findings were published in The Lancet. Americans who defaulted on their student loans are getting a bit of a break for now. The Department of Education had planned to garnish wages. We'd been telling you about it, but now they're holding off. Now the department says it wants to help student loan holders resume payments with more clear and affordable options. President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill reduced the number of payment options for borrowers, but allows for people to waive their unpaid interest if they make their payments on time.
Well, after nearly 3 years, one of Chicago's most iconic Italian restaurants is back. Carmine's is reopening today after their $4 million makeover. The Gold Coast restaurant overlooks Rush Street and Mariano Park. The renovation added 10,000 square feet of dining space and even an all-weather outdoor terrace. But it's Friday. Time Out Market is closing its Fulton Market Food Hall for good. Time Out Market CEO Michael Marley says that decision comes down to inconsistent foot traffic and higher operating costs. Sam Toya, the president and CEO of the Illinois Restaurant Association, says restaurants are still feeling some of the effects of hybrid work and from work from home schedules.
So when they opened these food halls, again, as I mentioned earlier, we had over 600,000 people coming down to the Central Business District. A lot of them were going out to lunch. Inflation wasn't as high. That was their model. Then inflation went up so big, and we only have 60% of the people working downtown because of these hybrid work schedules, and I think that's the problem.
Time Out, though, will continue to operate its food-centric website.
Chicago's annual Restaurant Week is back. The celebration of all of the city's culinary delights kicks off on Friday. More than 550 restaurants are participating. That is the most ever. And that means you can experience fine dining on a fixed price, just $30 for lunch and either $45 or $60 for dinner. This is the city's 19th Restaurant Week. It runs January 23rd to February 8th.
Well, the stage is set tonight for college football's national championship game. Heisman-winning quarterback Fernando Mendoza and #1 ranked Indiana will be taking on Miami. The game is being played at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, which is the Hurricanes' home stadium. Now, if the Hoosiers win, it will be their first championship in school history. It would be the Hurricanes' first championship since 2001.
I'm super excited for Indiana fans. We are rooting for you.
We want Anthony Ponce's Hoosiers to get it done.
That's right. And we now know Green Day will perform at the Super Bowl opening ceremony. Frontman Billy Joe Armstrong says they are honored to be a part of the celebration. Bad Bunny, the halftime performer this year. The Super Bowl is February 8th in Santa Clara.
Santa Clara, California. It is definitely not feeling like California here.
No. But, hey, look, we're not alone in the cold. You guys have been talking about the snow that fell in the Florida Panhandle yesterday. So, yeah, we have, though, really dangerously cold temperatures. That wind chill down there, that -20 or worse range this morning. And this isn't the only Arctic blast we will endure this week. I'll show you the weekend forecast when we come right back.
The Menards bag sale is here.
All right, time is now 6:30 this morning. Live look downtown. Looks nice and calm out there, but if you're looking at bottom left-hand corner, you see temperatures in the single digits out there, Mike.
Yeah, you know, at first blush there doesn't look that bad, and then you step outside, you're like, whoa, boy. Well, let's start with the temperatures, shall we? And it is 2 at O'Hare. That's as cold as it's been all morning. 4 at the lakefront. Few spots are at or below 0, including Aurora, DeKalb, Rockford. 1 above at LaSalle, Peru. Northwest Indiana, you're getting into that cold territory, too, with a 5 at Valparaiso and Rensselaer. The temperatures are only going to come up a couple of degrees this afternoon. So let's talk about the wind chill. This is what it feels like if you're outside. We're now to 25 below at NIU Country, 23 below at Aurora, 20 below 0 is the wind chill at O'Hare. This stuff, you know, you get frostbite in minutes in this sort of cold, so cover everything you can. This is our futurecast showing where wind chills are headed, even during the afternoon. We're looking at 10 to 15 below 0. Tonight's not going to be any bargain, even as the winds die down. You're looking at sub-zero wind chills going into tomorrow morning. During the day, tomorrow gets a little bit more palatable with positive numbers coming up there, but there's also more snow in the forecast. I'll tell you when that's going to arrive in a little bit, but are you going to arrive on time or late, Gabriella? The Dan Ryan, how are we looking?
Well, let's hope so. So if you leave your house a little bit early, then you should definitely come in on time. But every road is a little bit different here, Mike. You know, we're talking to some of the coworkers for their inbound commute or coming into the city, and they said, you know, the Stevenson was a little bit icy or there's snow-covered roads, but then Cicero Avenue looked good, and then the Kennedy looked another way. We have a lot of crashes that have been reported on the Dan Ryan. I'm not seeing any snow-covered roads, at least here near 35th, but they do have the camera pointed near 47th because on the southbound side in those express lanes, we had an earlier crash. It looks like it's clear, but it's still giving us a view of what traffic volume is looking like, which is kind of almost looking the same on the inbound side as it is the outbound side here on the Dan Ryan. So luckily, not many cars. Again, just take your time. There's no need to race into the city this morning. Let's take a look at some other incidents, though. This is Northwest Indiana. This is going westbound on I-80-94 near Klein Avenue. Now, I didn't get a good look at what exactly is going on, but it looks like it's some kind of incident. Either it's a stall that's blocking a lane or it's a crash that's blocking a lane, because I'm seeing a lot of traffic at Klein Avenue. Traffic starts around Burr Street, so if you are coming into the city from Northwest Indiana, be aware of this. Lastly, I'm going to talk about this crash over on the northbound side of I-57 at 127th Street. It should be blocking at least one lane. You know, we've been talking with Roseanne Tejas, who's live again over in Countryside, over on our southwest side. And Roseanne, I know that you're by a busy intersection that you took your time getting to that location. What are you seeing out there?
Well, on the way, we definitely saw some cars that were having difficulties on these icy conditions. But what we're seeing here on LaGrange Road at Joliet right now are very slushy roads and presumably very icy, because it is so cold out here that all that slush is freezing up. And we have seen the plow go by several times here, plow/salt spreader, spreading salt. But as I've been saying all morning, that's so much less effective when it is this cold. But they are keeping it up, and they're, plowing this slushy stuff off the road repeatedly throughout the morning. So it's super cold here. We actually talked to one gentleman who luckily works inside. He had just gotten off and had this to say when we spoke with Manuel.
Definitely is a lot colder than when it was when I went into work last night. So definitely a lot freezing. Putting in the groceries and just feeling the wind, it's definitely a lot colder. I wouldn't say I love it. I do prefer the cold over the heat, but it's getting worse and worse every day, and it's just one day it's warm, one day it's cold, and you just can't get used to it. I would not work outside. I know we have car guys at my work, and I used to do it when I first started. I wouldn't do it anymore.
Yeah, happy to be working inside. Look at the snow now. Now you get an idea when the gusts of winds pick up, the snow is blowing, in this case, off of the cars in the car lot, creating hazardous conditions on the road, because then it's more difficult to see when you're driving on these icy patches. So you do want to be extra careful. I also feel like the visualization for the feels like temperature, because I know what it feels like. We're standing here, it's 14 below. At least that's how it feels to me. I know it's a little higher than that, but that is the feels like temperature. So remember to be, have that warm clothing at hand. Always a good idea when it's this cold. You never know when you're going to have to get out of that car and deal with an issue. As they have dealt with issues here at the Circle K where we are this morning, they've said they've had a couple of people come in with flat tires. That air pressure on these cold temperatures just shoots down in a minute. So watch out for that too. Back to you in the studio.
Championship game.
And Bears fans enduring those cold temperatures for this.
I'm still sighing.
The Los Angeles Rams and the Chicago Bears Cinderella season was a surprising twist after an incredible throw by quarterback Caleb Williams forced the two teams into overtime.
I thought we were destined for victory after this, right? Well, the Bears, they would take that moment until in overtimes, Caleb Williams gets picked off downfield. The Rams would drive down the field and get into territory for the game-winning field goal. They would make that kick and win it 20-17. More than 60,000 fans at Soldier Field gave the Bears a standing ovation as they walked off the field. Many of the players saying that this was the favorite season that they've ever had.
In these moments, you feel that you let your team down, or you feel that you know this or that, and it's a good lesson learned for us. First time been in a situation for me and for us as a team, and I'm excited for what's to come.
This will be hopefully a feeling in this locker room that we won't forget, and we'll be able to use it as fuel going forward.
The Rams now head to Seattle to face the #1 seed Seahawks on Sunday for the NFC Championship game. Over in the AFC, the Patriots will head to Denver to face the Broncos.
And let's turn now to growing tensions between the U.S. and Europe after President Donald Trump announced a 10% tariff on countries opposing American control of Greenland. That includes Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the UK, the Netherlands, and Finland. Trump says he will raise tariffs again in June unless there's a deal for the U.S. to purchase Greenland. President Trump will travel this week to the World Economic Forum in Switzerland, where he will be running into many of those European leaders.
But the Pentagon says 1,500 active duty soldiers are now on standby for a possible deployment to Minnesota. President Trump has threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act to stop some of the protests going there. Tensions have been growing since an ICE agent shot and killed a woman earlier this month during the Trump administration's crackdown on immigration. And at the same time, the Justice Department is opening up an investigation into Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey over claims that they are impeding federal agents from doing their job. Walz did not address this investigation directly, but in a social media post, he states that weaponizing the justice system against your opponents is an authoritarian tactic. Mayor Frey called the investigation an intimidation tactic.
Two businesses seriously damaged after a fire in McHenry. Happened on Riverside Drive Sunday afternoon. Video shows smoke pouring out of the building. City leaders say Riverside Bakery and Reese's Bakery were hit hard by the fire. Riverside Bakery has been in business there for more than 50 years.
All the locals go here. They're known for their cookies and their chocolate donuts. The family's owned it forever, generations. And yeah, I mean, it's sad.
Thank you. Okay. Reese's Bakery. I'm sorry about that. I said bakery. I believe it's Bakery. Okay. Both of those businesses damaged. McHenry Mayor Wayne Jett released a statement calling this a truly sad day for the city. He says he has reached out to both businesses to offer help as they recover.
All right, time is now 6:39. Turning to the forecast, firefighters out there battling those fires in these conditions.
Yes. And then, of course, that water that they're pouring, it turns into ice immediately. That creates an additional problem. But those poor guys out there.
This morning, along those lines, that there was a big crash on the Dan Ryan. I know Gabby's been reporting. And there was a car that burst into flames. They had to use water to put it out. And it's just an ice rink out there.
This is
horrible.
This is bad. And, this is not a huge snowstorm. We're not, dealing with 6 inches of snow. It's a little bit of snow, but it's blowing across the roadways. It's so cold. Salt is very ineffective at these temperatures. So it's just creating a travel nightmare. Thank goodness it's a holiday, because otherwise there'd probably be more crashes out there with more folks on the roadways. Let's look at our Weather Authority Futurecast. It's missing out on the fact that there is still some snow falling in Chicagoland right now, but it is nailing what's going to be on the way here tomorrow night into Wednesday morning. I think we'll get some sunshine here today. It's not going to do much good, with temperatures going to be stuck in the single digits all day long. Tonight, skies will be partly cloudy and it will be cold, although temperatures will probably level off right around 0 tonight, and it won't be as windy. So the worst of the cold is kind of like right now for the next few hours. Now, during the day tomorrow, it's just dry. We'll have some sunshine early on, clouding up during the evening hours. Then here comes the snow. This is 9 o'clock, and look where the snow is favored. Northern suburbs, and then out of here by daybreak on Wednesday. This, again, is not a big snowstorm. It's an Alberta clipper, maybe an inch, 2 tops in Lake and McHenry County, but it will be enough to create some travel trouble. Today, we've got some morning snow, then blowing snow around. It's going to be windy and cold, falling temperatures. 18, that'll go in the books as the high today. It happened back at midnight. Wind chills maybe as bad as 25 below 0 this morning. Natalie?
My goodness. All right, thank you, Mike. Plenty more to come here on Good Day Chicago. Doctors are dismissing the Trump administration's latest claims about Tylenol. We're going to break down the new study and its findings. And a new performer announced ahead of the Super Bowl. We're going to tell you who's performing outside of the halftime show. And for some people in Chicago, this might be their Super Bowl. It's almost restaurant week. We're going to help you plan where to go coming up.
Fox 32 News is brought to you.
The number killed during Iran's crackdown on anti-government protests has now climbed to over 3,900 people. That is around 1,400 more than just a week ago. Iran's streets, though, have been quiet in recent days as thousands of people are arrested and some of those protests start to taper off. The Trump administration says it is closely watching the developments after Iran promised to pause executions. President Trump, though, has not ruled out using military force. Well, President Trump has also established a new oversight board for Gaza. Board of Peace will oversee the relationship between Israel and Gaza. Trump will serve as the chairman of the board and says its establishment is just the next phase of this 20-point peace plan for the region. The board will include leaders from Palestine and has the backing of the U.S., Egypt, Turkey, and Qatar.
In Spain, at least 39 people are dead after two high-speed trains crashed into each other head-on. It is in the southern part of the country near Malaga and Madrid. Police say one train came off the rails and then jumped onto the opposite track. Both trains were carrying around 500 people. Chicago police investigating a deadly crash on South DuSable Lakeshore Drive. This happened Sunday morning. The car was just north of McCormick Place when the driver lost control, hit a pole, and crashed into the median. One passenger died at the hospital. Police say the driver and 3 other passengers were also hospitalized, but they will survive.
Well, starting Wednesday, the State Department is freezing immigrant visa processing for 75 countries. This indefinite pause includes Somalia, Russia, Afghanistan, Iran, and more. The State Department says that the freeze will remain active as long as it takes to ensure the new migrants are not using social welfare services.
A month after CBS News was accused of censorship for pulling a 60-minute segment, the story is airing. The segment focuses on the CCOT prison in El Salvador, where the Trump administration has been deporting Venezuelan immigrants. Reporter Sharon Alfonsi claimed editor-in-chief Bari Weiss's decision to pull the story was political. Weiss reportedly said the story wasn't ready because they did not have any Trump administration officials on camera. But Alfonsi said they refused to be interviewed. The segment includes a new beginning and ending to include the additions that Weiss wanted.
We have some new changes for student loan borrowers that they need to know before making their next payment. The announcement from the Education Department coming up next.
Fox Local, your smart TV source.
Today, the nation remembers the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. MLK Day is held the third Monday each January.
King was, of course, one of those prominent figures during the civil rights movement. His speeches on injustice, racism, and inequality were heard all across the country. He delivered his famous "I Have a Dream" speech in 1963 as 250,000 people marched on Washington.
And there are several events across the city and suburbs today. Mayor Brandon Johnson will attend the annual Rainbow Push MLK breakfast later this morning. He will also be at City Year Chicago's annual MLK Day of Service at Morgan Park High School. Chicago History Museum is granting free admission to all Illinois residents as part of their celebration, and the Art Institute is hosting family-friendly activities, all inspired by Dr. King. And a reminder this morning, both federal and local businesses are closed for the holiday, along with most banks and post offices. There will be no mail or package delivery, with the regular business picking back up tomorrow. But most restaurants, grocery stores, and retail businesses will be open today.
A new study finds there is no meaningful link between a pregnant mother using acetaminophen and her child developing autism or ADHD. An international research team reviewed 43 studies before coming to that conclusion. One study compared siblings from the same family. One was exposed to acetaminophen in the womb, the other was not, and there was no difference in neurodevelopmental outcomes. The findings were published in The Lancet. Americans who defaulted on their student loans are getting a bit of a break for now. The Department of Education had planned to garnish wages. We'd been telling you about it, but they're holding off on that. Now the department says it wants to help student loan holders resume payments with more clear and affordable options. President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill reduced the number of payment options for borrowers, but allows for people to waive their unpaid interest if they make their payments on time.
After nearly 3 years, one of Chicago's most iconic Italian restaurants is back. Carmine's is reopening today after their $4 million makeover. The Gold Coast restaurant overlooks Rush Street and Mariano Park. The renovation added 10,000 square feet of dining space and an all-weather outdoor terrace. Well, this Friday, Time Out Market is closing its Fulton Market Food Hall. Time Out CEO Michael Marley says that decision comes down to inconsistent foot traffic and higher operating costs. Sam Toya, the president and CEO of the Illinois Restaurant Association, says most restaurants are still feeling the effects of hybrid and work-from-home schedules.
So when they opened these food halls, again, as I mentioned earlier, we had over 600,000 people coming down to the central business district. A lot of them were going out to lunch. Inflation wasn't as high. That was their model. Then inflation went up so big, and we only have 60% of the people working downtown because of these hybrid work schedules, and I think that's the problem.
Time Out will continue to operate its food-centric website.
Chicago's annual Restaurant Week is back. The celebration of all of the city's culinary delights kicks off on Friday. More than 550 restaurants are participating. That is the most ever. And that means you can experience fine dining on a fixed price. $30 for lunch and either $45 or $60 for dinner. This is the city's 19th Restaurant Week. It runs January 23rd to February 8th.
Well, we got more big football tonight. The stage is set for tonight's college football national championship game. Heisman winning quarterback Fernando Mendoza and #1 Indiana are taking on Miami. The game is being played down south in Florida at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. If the Hoosiers win, it will be their first championship in school history. If Miami wins, it'll be their first ring since 2001.
And we're rooting for Indiana here. Sorry. If you went to Miami.
We're biased, yes.
We are.
Anthony's team
Of course
to win.
we are. We now know Green Day will perform at the Super Bowl opening ceremony, so it's back to the 90s. Frontman Billy Joe Armstrong says they are honored to be part of the celebration. They haven't aged that much. Their hair still looks fabulous. Bad Bunny is the halftime performer this year. The Super Bowl is February 8th in Santa Clara.
And unfortunately, our Chicago Bears will not be playing on February the 8th as we check in with Mike, though, but we're just going to focus on the forecast. Going to forget about our Bears for now.
What's interesting, the 4 teams with the best records during the regular season are the 4 teams that are left.
Oh,
How about that? How about that?
There you have it.
All right, a heck of a season for the Bears, and they, both teams struggled a little bit in that weather last night at Soldier Field, and our camera's rocking there, pointed out there at the planetarium. It is windy. There's still a little bit of light snow falling, a lot of snow blowing across some highways. We're going to see some sunshine, but it's not going to help much with the temperatures. Right now at O'Hare, it's 1. West winds at 14, so the wind chill there feels like 17 below zero, but some spots are worse than that. 1 below the temperature at Woodstock. It is 4 in Joliet and Chicago Heights, 5 at Valparaiso. Benton Harbor, the hot spot, 14 degrees. Winds, though, many areas gusting more than 30 miles an hour, including Waukegan, Midway, O'Hare, Aurora, pretty much all of Northwest Indiana in that club as well. So these wind chills are really painful. You're not going to want to spend much time outside in this. You'll feel sorry for the folks that have to be out there working in this. It is going to be nasty. Cold weather advisory, all of Chicagoland until noon. That's a period of time when we may see wind chills as bad as 25 below zero. On radar, still a few little stripes of very light snow falling, mostly southwest of the city now. So I'll keep a little light snow in the forecast for the morning hours. Then it'll be blowing snow even as sunshine tries to come out. 18, what's that? That was the high at midnight. Now we're stuck single digits. 0 tonight, so temperatures kind of level off. It won't be as windy under partly cloudy skies. But every day this week, colder than normal, and there's a chance for some light snow tomorrow night and Wednesday morning, and then bitter cold temperatures Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's not just the roads. Gabriella, we know that in extreme cold, the trains don't like to perform.
The trains don't like the cold either, Mike. Yeah, let's talk about trains really coming from the north side, northwest side, too. North Central service, all inbound and outbound trains are operating up to 35 minutes behind. It's due to some emergency track repairs going on. And then Milwaukee District North and Union Pacific North, both those are dealing with operational issues. And it's been happening about the last half hour, so up to 25 minutes behind for those 2 train lines that you see here. There's trains that will accommodate. Again, check your Metro app. Let's take a look at our roads, and this is over in Rosemont. It looks like they just turned the angle of this camera, but we're looking at the Jane Addams really, and then also that long 190 ramp that takes you to O'Hare. You can see it's a little bit snow covered. Some of that snow kind of nudging into the lanes there. Be extra careful, because especially on some of those ramps is where we're seeing some crashes pop up, or even some stalls. There might be blocking the left shoulder, left lane. You're not expecting those flashing lights, so you're hitting the brakes quickly. Including a new one is on the southbound side of I-55 at LaGrange Road, right close to where Roseanne is in Countryside. There's a new crash reported there on that exit ramp. It might be really slick. The only other crash that's really impacting traffic on the expressway is over in Northwest Indiana, westbound I-80-94 near Klein Avenue. We still have a couple lanes blocked because of a crash that's happening there. Here's a look at the road temperatures around Chicagoland area. You see they're all under 20 degrees. Above 20 degrees and at 20 degrees is where road salt works best on our expressways. So please keep it extra, leave some extra time for yourself this morning, because you don't know what areas are going to be more slick than others. I'll keep you updated and give you some drive times here coming up. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Gabby. And plenty more Good Day Chicago ahead for you. Keep it right here.
Live better.
The Trump administration touting its efforts to lower car prices. The new changes include eliminating the $7,500 electric vehicle tax credit, rescinding California EV rules and removing penalties on drivers not meeting fuel efficiency requirements. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says the changes will, quote, bring car prices down. But Democrats argue the new rules and auto tariffs will negatively affect consumers.